Ripley has the last two entries, both entering and exiting a cryotube. Did I mention the half we found was his legs?
Well, somebody blew the atmospheric processor and Hadley's whole private.
Sir, due respect, we ain't getting anything else out of this computer.
Private, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?
Yeah. We go in.
We have managed to get behind the scenes here at Sega. It's not really... it looks kind of like the inside of a spaceship with with the gray walls. But we're here to talk about Aliens Colonial Marines. That took a while. What happened?
Well, basically what has happened is I think that we probably announced the game a little too early. And so when we first announced it, what we were really doing was kind of talking really about the premise that we were doing. You get to see some, early on we saw some sort of prototype materials and that kind of thing. What we've done over that time is we have gone through and kind of realized the vision that we were talking about at that point, from what we're going to do with the renderer to make sure that we are able to kind of achieve the sort of vision that Cameron was doing with his cinematography, but also to do things like make sure that our AI buddies are awesome, make sure that our Xenos have the kind of intelligence that we want. So really hone all of those things and really then get into a proper production methodology.
So what is your vision of Aliens Colonial Marines?
Well, it's finally to get into the boots of these soldiers and finally feel that atmosphere that we expect from that kind of from the kind of game. It's to kind of deal with being able to experience the sort of sequel that we always wanted to see, you know, out of Aliens. I think Alien 3 is really cool in the way that it dealt with getting back to the roots of Alien and going and having a single alien be scary, and Fincher did a cool job with that. But what we all really kind of wanted was we wanted to see more of the, you know, of these Marines and kind of get an experience with that. But this time we get to actually be them, and that's even better than watching it on a movie screen.
Yeah, what is it that is so special about Aliens? That's the Alien movie. Everybody knows the quotes. Everybody, when they think about Aliens, they think about the second movie. Sure. What do you think is about that movie that is so special?
I think it's a couple different things that make it special. I think the one on the one hand, it's defining what it means to be sort of a military shooter in space, if you will, or a military experience in space. And it was sort of the first experience that we had with that. And so that kind of gave us something new to think about. What is it like to be the military that has to deal with different kind of, you know, experiences? But the other part of that is dealing with probably a technological, really high technological society, dealing with a sort of low-tech kind of situation with the Xenos and that sort of thing. So when Cameron was doing this in '86, you know, the Vietnam War wasn't that far away from when he launched the movie. So a lot of the people that were watching it were experiencing what sort of remembrance of what that was about, right? And so even today, when we have what's happening in the Middle East, it's kind of in some ways still relevant today to be talking about this sort of like difference between that. The sort of, in some ways, the sort of cocky military group dealing with, well, oh, it's bug hunt, we're just going to go deal with that, when the reality is these things are smarter than they think.
So what it's like working with, well, the bugs, the Xenos, the aliens, both within the franchise and with them as one of the most famous science fiction creatures ever.
Well, it's a challenge, right? Because when you think about it and you look at all the movies and you put all of those scenes where the Xenos appear, it's really not a very, you know, there's not very much of that. So you have to kind of deal with how do they move, how do they move in a cool way, and how are they going to, you know, crawl on the walls, and how do they get in and out, and what's the gameplay there? So that's been the challenge for us is doing that, and I think we've achieved it really well, and I think you can see that in the demo. But that's one of those kind of interesting things is like, I mean, you want to do this justice and you want it to look awesome.
Yeah, because the Alien games that's been out before has gone up and down a bit when it comes to quality. What have you guys done to really ensure that Alien Colonial Marines lives up to the vision you have?
Well, we're extreme fans for one, so we want to hit those kind of moments where it feels like fan service, you know. So we're going to be able to kind of go back to LV-426 and see it after the atmospheric processor is blown up. We've been very, I think, with our pedigree of being very authentic with like the military shooters and that sort of thing, makes a lot of sense to kind of apply that to Colonial Marines. So we're really dealing with the weapons really well. We're dealing with the way they run around the space, and then we're treating that the same way with probably the Xenos and things like that. That all of that is done as a fan would want to see it, but it's also something, if you've never watched the movie, is you're still going to be able to come in there and be fresh about it and just have a great romp through an awesome sci-fi experience.
We briefly talked about what was special with the second movie, but what do you think is so special about the aliens themselves that they just keep coming back?
Well, I think they're really creepy, right? Because the propagation of the species is they put this face hugger on you, right? And then they, you know, kind of chest burst. I mean, they kill you by making whatever their new baby is, basically, by doing that. It's kind of creepy and freaky, and I think that there's something about that to just kind of keep scaring people, you know, imagining first this sort of claustrophobic idea of this thing being on your face and what that means, and then after that, you're going to die by, you know, something pretty horrible.
So he's not his beautiful face.
That's pretty, you know, it's got its own phallic elements, I suppose, but, you know, the second mouth, that's always kind of sexy, you know.
We'll have this discussion off camera, I think.
Oh, okay, all right.
But it's been, for you as a company, it's been a big E3. What's it been like?
It's been crazy, right? We've got 3 games here at E3, and for an independent game company to have 3 games at E3 is probably better than some of the publishers have on their lineup. So it's been pretty freaky for us, you know, trying to deal with having all those games. But we're really excited. I mean, it's been a great E3 for us. We're really happy. So
when can we expect to jump into the shoes of the Colonial Marines?
Yeah, it'll be in 2012, in spring of 2012. So I think you'll see it on the PC, 360, and Xbox. It's going to be a fantastic experience.